Hello and welcome to the next of our recaps. This is a recap of our lecture on directors' remuneration. So remember that the director's remuneration is set by the Remuneration Committee. So the Remuneration Committee's role is to set the rewards policy, and that policy should recruit and retain directors. So it means that the remuneration that they set should be enough to retain the directors and to recruit them, but shouldn't be excessive. So the objectives of the Remuneration Committee are to first of all remain independent, so they should be non-executive directors. They should set a clear policy so everyone's aware of it. They should set clear targets and act in the shareholders' interests above all else. And the policy that they set must be reported. So how do they actually operate? Well, the first thing they need to do is review the framework and the policies that are in place at the moment. They'll also need to monitor the remuneration structures within the organisation so that they can get an idea of what's actually happening at the minute. They then can set all of the directors' pay based on the recommendations they come up with. And all of that will need to be disclosed, so we fully disclose directors' remuneration in the annual report. So how will the Remuneration Committee generally set the directors' pay? Well, that pay will include various aspects. It will include base salary, bonuses, and pensions and benefits. So all of that should motivate the director. Remember, we need to attain the directors and retain them. So it needs to be comparable with other companies so that we can set it at an area that will actually attain those directors. Although we need to think about the wider implications, such as shareholders being unimpressed with directors getting paid too much. So things that the Remuneration Committee will need to consider, they need to consider the level of benefits versus salary. They also need to consider non-cash motivators. So are there other things that should be given to the directors to motivate them? Ultimately, we want to try and promote long-term loyalty to the business for the directors. So why do we need to set this in this way? Well, we need to strive for performance. We also need to make sure that if the directors achieve the performance, that we reward them. We also need to make sure that that's not excessive, but that we retain the talent that we have within the organisation. So it's a bit of a balancing act to get that for the Remuneration Committee. So the various components of directors' pay will be, first of all, the base salary. So that will be dependent on the role that they're carrying out, and they'll need to think about other companies and what they're paying, and it must be enough to retain and attain the directors. It also must have a performance-related element, so the pay must relate to the performance of the director. That might be based on earnings per share, it might be profit targets, it could focus on shareholder wealth to try and align their interests with the shareholders, or it could look at economic value added. It could also include share options, so that's the option to buy the shares at a fixed price so they can then sell them at a profit. So share options will vest in a number of years, so that means they have to wait for them, so it's in their interests for the share price to go up over that number of years. Therefore, the directors' interests are the same as the shareholders' interests. Other aspects of pay that directors will get will be pension contributions, benefits in kind such as cars, golden hellos, so that's a payment to persuade them to come to the business, loyalty bonuses for staying with the business, payoffs when they leave the business, and deferred payments if the business is successful. We looked at all of those in illustration 2, and then we moved on to look at just some other aspects of directors' remuneration. First of all, the UK Corporate Governance Code says that there must be performance-related pay, and that's for executive directors, not for non-executive directors. So the guidance given on this is that the Remuneration Committee, should set limits and eligibility for both bonuses and for share options. Also, that there should be approval of all remuneration by the shareholders. All of the executive directors' pay should be performance related. The basic salary only should be pensionable, not the bonuses. And we should consider the pension costs as well, to consider what that's going to cost the business ultimately. When it comes to regulation, we want to show that there's clear, transparent pay so that we know exactly what the directors are receiving. In a legal sense, well, the terms have to be set for when those directors are removed so that they're reasonable for both parties. When it comes to ethical aspects, we need to consider the following. We need to consider the business being a good corporate citizen, so not paying for failure, for example. Also, we want to reduce corporate failures by getting good people involved. And we want to focus therefore on directors' pay, particularly that aspect of not paying for poor performance. So that is a recap of our lecture on directors' remuneration.